exciting today because I wanted to bring out Cody. He's been generous enough to take his time. And many of you know him, some of you may not, but Cody was at Vigor for almost 7 years and definitely the busiest coach at that time as well. Definitely a hustler. And when he started, he said he wanted to build an online coaching business. And we talked about like what it would take to do that. So hey, look, you gotta coach people for at least 5 years in person. He definitely did that. Coached a lot of people. Eventually ended up building his online coaching business, which he's had now for 8 years. Very successful. I would say that they do both the training and nutrition side, but very well known for the nutrition side. So they have a model of coaching nutrition. One of the things I wanted to ask him today is kind of like, what would be a simple model for you guys to learn to apply nutrition coaching to your clients, right? Remember, one of the things that I talk to a lot of you guys as far as getting in your head about like the nutrition coaching side of things. You don't have to be the greatest nutrition coach on the planet. You just have to be steps ahead of the person you're coaching, right? But frameworks help, and like what Cody's gonna go over today, and please, also questions and everything else, is just a framework of how you guys can help people move to the next step and the next step and the next step with their nutrition, because we know people want to lose weight, people want to be healthier. It's hard to do that without the nutrition piece, right? And we'll keep building on this. We're going to record this. We'll have the resources. But I really wanted to go deep with you guys and all of us at this, knowing what to do the same, right? So there's a standard. There's just a way of doing stuff, so it's not all over the place, right? So thank you, brother. Appreciate it. This is going to be fantastic.
First of all, very excited to be here. It's been a long time since walking these doors. I remember some familiar faces from back in the day. Pat, I told him I think you were in 7th grade when I last saw him, which is, he's got like this crazy structured jawbone now. Like, this is wild, dude. Dude, it's crazy. So I'm very, very excited to be here and to help. So as Luka mentioned, like, I've done a lot of continuing education and work in the nutrition in the online space. And it was almost like and I think this is going to be really helpful, because the deeper I got into the science and the certs, and I went and got my sports nutrition degree and stuff, the more I realized none of it really helped at all, because we work with everyday people. And the deepest level of some of that science stuff just never mattered. I never had those conversations with people. Like, what mattered was changing their behaviors. And that's why, especially for us, we've had to master this, because we don't have people walk in our doors. We're all online. So when somebody walks in here, it's instant community, instant accountability, familiarity. That alone is motivating. So we had to go so far to figure out how do we get them to stick to the plan without having that, right? Which is why this stuff I think is going to be so helpful for you guys, because you're in here. So real quick, who I am, Luka kind of already introed me. I always have this on the beginning of all my slides, but I'm a father, I'm a business owner. I love podcasting because I love talking. So I have literally hours and hours. So if you guys have clients, I get it, but I can answer questions as long as possible. As long as I'm home for trick-or-treating with my daughter, I'm good. So I'll be here. And I'm a coach, and I still coach people today because I love that part more than anything. The tailored transformation method is kind of what we've decided to call this. This kind of happened naturally. My company is called Tailored Coaching Method. The tailored transformation method is just how we do things, right? And we've broken it down into 3 specific phases. And this is the accumulation of really just years and years and years of working with everyday people, and also seeing a lot of issues inside of the online coaching space and the nutrition coaching space. Because the hardest people to work with are the Gen Pop people when it comes to nutrition, right? Like, I've worked with WWE athletes, bodybuilders, bikini athletes, some like low-level actors and like sitcoms and stuff, and they're robots. They're getting paid to look good. So I tell them to jump, they jump, right? And it's cool to work with them, but it's not really that fulfilling, to be honest with you, compared to the everyday person that changes their life. It's also way easier because the everyday person has their ways. They're stuck in their habits that they have ingrained into their lifestyle. We have to get them to change that, okay? So this is where a lot of people fail. They go learn how to calculate macros, and then they don't actually learn how to apply it. And I think you should know that stuff because it's important. And we use macros with all of our clients, even the clients who have never tracked macros and say that they won't and they hate it and it's not going to work for them because it hasn't before. We still get them to do it, and it still works really well, okay? But the point is that we have to be experts at helping people become self-motivated, change them from being intuitive to intentional, and really get them to stay consistent with the things that we're asking them to do outside of the gym. And it comes down to those 3 phases: foundation, transformation, sustain. And this is the kind of stuff that it produces. These are all very, very normal people, like everyday people that have had insane transformations over the years. And we have hundreds and hundreds of these all over our website because this is all we do. All we do is fat loss. That is our main thing. So we take people through this process, and what I'm going to do is kind of break things down. So I actually this is the first time I've actually presented on this. So I'm trying to basically take everything we're putting into a certification course that we're launching next year, which is we're giving people 12 months to finish. I don't think it'll take people 12 months, but we're giving them that long before we charge them to stay in the group and keep learning stuff. But point is that I'm trying to encapsulate all of that into the most important factors for you guys, but there's a lot. So as always, ask questions, whether it's at the end or in the middle of it, it's totally fine. And just know that a lot of these things, there's a lot of context that we can go into, and we have a system behind each of them. But I want to give you guys like the most important aspects, I think, for you, okay? This is what's called self-formation. So it's like a cheesy way of saying transformation for yourself, but we take people through this with their nutrition, essentially, right? Self-control, self-discipline, self-belief, self-respect. It's this process, taking them through the fat loss journey, okay? We teach them self-control, it develops self-discipline, they begin to have more self-belief, and eventually they have self-respect. Self-respect is what guides their intentions, right? If we're gonna play on being intuitive with our diet, I intuitively wanna drink beer damn near every day. I would love to have ice cream every day. My intuition is telling me to do that. My intentions are goal-focused. So we have to go through this process to get them in a place where they respect themselves and their goals enough to choose the right intentions, okay? What this actually looks like is tracking and losing weight, which leads us to tracking some aspects and maintaining the weight loss. Goes into hybrid tracking, which is basically they trust themselves enough to not need the boundaries, right? If you're bowling and you have the bumpers up, at a certain point you get good enough and you trust yourself enough to stay in the lane without having the bumpers up. That's what this is. We use certain things to keep them in their lane, and then eventually that leads to intentional, not intuitive, and mindfulness. But this is the process everybody goes through. So we start with phase one. Phase one is where we develop the essential skills of self-control and basics of macro tracking. Macros can be, and if you guys have experience with this or questions about clients you've worked with, please do ask, because it is kind of a can of worms. It can be very difficult to get people to track macros, right? They got to learn how to do stuff. They got to weigh their food. The problem with most people is that they don't understand why they're tracking, and when they do track, they're tracking completely inaccurately, which is very common. I'm going to show you guys some stuff that you can use with your clients, but the reality is tracking macros is just building awareness. A lot of people don't realize what they're eating. They don't understand calories. They don't understand portion sizes. They don't understand ingredients, and we have to teach them that. We can't teach them that without doing this. We can't expect somebody to get from point A to point B without having a GPS first, because they don't know the route to get there. This is our GPS, okay? This phase creates the foundation for long-term transformation by teaching clients the skills required to follow through consistently. So this is really just like a building phase. We're trying to gain awareness, try to teach them the measurements, the process, that kind of stuff, okay? Phase two is transformation. We strengthen self-discipline and we help them earn self-belief. This phase deepens the client's autonomy and ability to make aligned decisions, developing the mindset and habits necessary to progress towards sustainability. Okay, so really, this is the process, like to put it easily, we used to just call it the primer phase, the progressive phase, and the prosper phase. It was kind of just like, we're gonna get them ready, we're gonna help them transform, and then we're just gonna make sure they can sustain it, right? So this phase is really just about getting them the result more than anything. But within that, we do like to try to remove macros in those bumpers while doing this part, which can be difficult, but once you have the tools, it becomes really easy. And it's really, really helpful to do it during that phase. And I'll explain why. Phase three is sustain. We cultivate deep levels of self-respect by aligning daily actions with core values and the identity clients aspire to embody. This phase is really important because this is really getting people to understand what their core values are. I recently spoke at this event in North Carolina, and one of the speakers asked who has core values here. There's a bunch of business owners, and a bunch of them raised their hands. And then I was talking on a similar topic, and I basically told them I call bullshit on 90% of you guys. I think you have a list of words that sound cool, and you're like, and the reason I said that is actually partially because I remember a decade ago, I think, Martin Rooney was here, actually was at the old gym, and he brought this up, and he said, he looked at me, he was like, would you die for those words? I think I was like 19, 20. And I'm like, no, I think loyalty sounds cool, so I said it. I felt really stupid, and then I was like, okay, core values are something very serious. This is like how we live our life, how we conduct ourselves, how we show up. If I die tomorrow, how are people going to describe how I was using key characteristics? Those are my core values. It's not about what I say in my head, it's about what people see that I show, okay? A lot of people don't have those, and that's okay. But if we can get clients to start thinking about those things, they will have an internal drive to create intentions based on those core values, because we align their core values with their goal and what kind of person accomplishes that goal. Okay, so those are the 3 phases, and now we're going to kind of get into the different phases. This first phase, I like to use analogies and acronyms as much as I can because it just kind of sticks in people's heads, right? Like if we can remember things, like to the point, I actually filmed a video yesterday, I think 2 days ago, and it was about traveling and dieting. And the acronym I used was PISS. And so I said PISS a bunch of times because I wanted them to remember it. But it was planning, Instacart, support, and then stacking habits that you can take with you. But when you say PISS and people are watching nutrition videos, now it clicks, right? It sticks. So you'll hear me do that a lot because I do want it to just be something you can try to remember. And if you guys remember BASIS, it'll probably pull some of that back into it, okay? So BASIS is a framework to coach the development of self-control. And again, this all somewhat happened kind of naturally because as I was coaching more and more people, as I was building my team, we're trying to figure out what's working, what's not. I actually have somebody on my staff that is going to help me with the certification and stuff, and she has her master's in curriculum organization and a minor in psychology, and so she would listen to my podcast and listen to these calls I would do, and she'd be like, this explains what you're doing, and she would organize it for me, and we would just riff and build off it. And so it's come a long way of just like developing, but this first phase is probably the most important. This is like, if I had to only 30 minutes with you guys, I would just talk about this. Because this is 90% of the time, you can get a client losing weight and you don't even pass this. You don't even go to the transformation phase because these things create the fundamentals that lead to transformation. So this is guided by the BASIS framework. It's 5 evidence-based behaviors that create measurable improvement in self-control. Each component includes a checklist to ensure consistent execution and accountability. This is also something we use with our team where we have a literal checklist of like, okay, your clients need to be able to check these boxes before they move on. We're not going to give them a report card to check off, but if the coach can look at the client and say, yes, they're doing this, they're competent with this, we can move into this next phase, right? If they can't check all of them, we know what we need to work on before we do. So basics of macro tracking: awareness practices, structured environment, intentional restraint, and supportive reinforcement. Okay, these are the 5 things that this breaks down to. The summary of this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give you guys a little bit of a summary in the acronyms, and then I'm going to go into each phase. So I'm going to kind of crank through these, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes. So phase 1, the purpose of this phase is to teach the skill of self-control, improving tracking accuracy. And this actually, I want to touch on this real quick. This is really important, teaching the skill of self-control. A lot of people get the idea that it's like a trait that you're born with. I'm just not disciplined. I just don't have any self-control. And the more they say that, the more it becomes true. Like what Henry Ford says, whether you think you're right or you're wrong, you're right, or something like that. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Same idea. Somebody keeps saying they don't have self-control. It's like, no, you just haven't learned it. You haven't practiced it. The amount of times I've talked to moms and I go, okay, well, hold on. Before we say we don't have discipline or we don't have self-control, let's go over real quick and talk about being a mother. And we start going through the hardships of being a mom, the hardships of disciplining a child, teaching a child, all these things. And I can literally break down all the ways they've shown self-discipline and self-control. And then I go, now we just take that and we channel it towards fat loss. Instantly they have more belief and now they feel like they can do it. Because it's true, it's no different. It's literally just channeling it in a different area. So this is teaching them that skill. Self-control improves tracking accuracy, create the system and structure clients need to succeed, build early confidence through visible progress. So we do want to get some results in this phase. Mastery of phase 1 enables clients to advance into phase 2 with a strong foundation of self-control, structure, capability, and motivation in themselves. Again, we really have to focus on this as an online company because if I don't get somebody to be internally motivated and driven, then they're going to fail because I don't get to see them often enough, right? So not saying that it's not important here, but when you guys add that to the mix of having an environment like this, it's like, it's a game changer. I assume it's a game changer. I haven't taught anybody in a gym this. So you guys will make it a game changer compared to other gyms. Client performance, competencies, checklist. So this is an example of like a coach can be in a certain phase and we go, okay, like this would be like the SOP we're essentially like building out of this for the client coaches that are going to go through the certification. Can your client demonstrate accurate and complete macro tracking? Can your client complete minimum of 2 off-plan forms? Off-plan forms are just like worksheets. It's basically like, hey, you're traveling, you're going to go off-plan, fill this form out. And it's literally just asking them, what is your plan? Write it out. A lot of people just, I'm gonna try hard and I'm gonna be mindful. And it's like, okay, what does that look like? What does that even mean? I'm gonna portion size. What does that mean? You know, because portioning is really hard. Okay, let's set a rule for it. You're not going to eat anything out of a bag or a box. You'll pour it in a bowl. That's it. That's a strategy for portion control, because I watch it and then I realize that's not that much food, but I'm gonna eat that because I committed to it. Okay, but it's really just planning. Client completes a minimum of 2 weekend plans. Client performs daily awareness practices. These are just all things that we go, okay, if a client does these things throughout this phase, they're learning the things we're trying to learn them, and they can move into the next phase, right? And these can change, but the point is that for us, we've had to develop something like this, because how do I know that, you know, like Kyle's one of my coaches, he lives here, but I have a coach that lives in Brazil. I have a coach that lives in Montana. I have a coach that lives in Chicago. It's like, how do I make sure that their clients are getting the results we want? How do I make sure the coach is following the right protocols? Difficult. So you have to have certain things in place. Phase 2 is transformation. This acronym is growth. This is coaching and developing self-discipline and self-belief. Again, they are not traits that you're born with, they're skills you develop. The growth phase is designed to strengthen self-discipline and build earned self-belief while advancing a client's dietary methods to intentionally influence body composition. Fancy way of saying we're trying to create discipline and get them to change. We want to create a transformation, right? They learn to follow through on their commitments even when their motivation fluctuates. So being able to actually act on their goals despite being not being motivated. We're reinforcing the identity and confidence required to continue success. At some point, they're going to doubt themselves. We have to help them get through that period. Okay. This phase deepens the client's autonomy and ability to make aligned decisions, developing the mindset and habits necessary to progress towards sustainability. I would imagine if you guys are doing nutrition coaching with clients here, the goal isn't probably to keep them nutrition coaching forever. It's to add that in, get them the result, and then keep them here forever, right? At a certain point, we kind of realize that too. We don't have that place they go, so we have to step in. We like to keep clients as long as possible. I'm a business owner, but at the same time, we also understand that if we do our job perfectly, at some point they do go. We keep people for a decent amount of time. But I say that to say this can be something that adds a lot of value and keeps people here long term, because you're really shifting a lot for them that translates forever, okay? And they don't have to necessarily like work out every time for that. It's a huge value add on top of training, especially because training feels really good. Like we get dopamine fix and endorphins release. We leave the gym, we're all fired up and pumped up. You don't get that from nutrition, right? The reality is like it's meal prep sucks, tracking macros is boring, but if you can get them to do those things, they get the result they really desire. That's what matters, okay? So growth stands for goal-driven discipline, reinforcing self-belief, optimizing macros, widen abundance mindset, thought mastery, and habits for life. Again, I'm not going to be able to cover all this. Know that this is like a 12-module course. So we're literally having breakdowns of each one, but I'm gonna comb through the most important ones. But I know that it is a lot, and I don't think you guys have to memorize all this to put it to use effectively. So the summary of this phase is to help clients evolve from self-control to self-discipline and self-belief built on proof of effort. Through identity development and improved cognitive and nutrition skills, clients develop resilience and autonomy required for long-term success. Really what we're doing here is we're getting them to lose weight. We're reviewing and reflecting to remind them of what they just did and accomplished so that they can see the proof of what just happened. That gives them belief, because belief is just literally seeing something happen and believing that it did. It's proof, it's results. And then developing the skills to have autonomy, really ingrain it into them so they don't have to use a check-in or a macro tracker or anything like that. Same thing, we have a checklist. We'll get into these phases, so I'm going to kind of skip through this. But again, I think the importance of me showing this is that we shouldn't just go from one to the next. We want to be able to assess where a client's at and actually ask them, or observe. Put things into the conversations as a coach to see, are they able to do these things, okay? It's similar to progressing somebody from a kettlebell deadlift all the way up to a heavy sumo or trap bar deadlift. Like there's certain things you're looking for to make sure they can actually do it, before you just jump from a glute bridge all the way up, right? They're just doing hinge with body weight to a trap bar. Probably not the best idea. Phase 3 is sustain. This one is self. 4 components that reinforce identity, emotional resilience, and intentional decision-making for long-term success. This is honestly the easiest phase, because at this point, they've developed so much of it already. It's kind of just pointing it out to them. It's reestablishing those core values and really just making sure that it has been deeply ingrained and talking to them about it. So they realize it. Tell them what they've done, show them what they've done and accomplished to get them to really understand and be able to hold on to it for the long term, okay? Self-alignment with values, emotional resilience, lifelong dietary intention, and future growth and challenges. So really just getting them to continue growing and be very aligned with their values and the person they want to be. This is where I think most nutrition coaching goes wrong by not understanding this aspect. Clients maintain results through identity alignment and intentional behaviors. Luka said it on my podcast when he was on. He said, if you're not paying attention to behavior change, you're going to have a very hard time in the coaching industry. And I think it's very true. We've seen that a lot in the online space. COVID hit, so online coaching kind of boomed. And if you guys look at the back end of business, there's been so many online coaching companies that have just folded and failed because they couldn't get people to do this stuff. They can't get people to actually talk to them about deeper things, mindset, core values, who they are as a person. That's the stuff that matters for nutrition. That's the stuff that matters for fat loss. Because somebody who is, I mean, literally, you take somebody, they lose 100 pounds, they're a different person. Like literally a different human being. It's a massive shift. And we have to lean onto the things that actually happen in that process. And again, we have the competencies and the checklist for the coaches. Okay, so now we're gonna put it into practice. Before I do, does anybody have any questions? Because I know that was kind of a lot just in the introduction part.
I like the roadmap. I feel like how you said it was your first time doing it when you swapped it to
that,
beliefs.
yeah,
Really
that one I've used. I have used that multiple times. The rest of it has been, so like, we literally created this, basically this whole course. I didn't film all my modules, but I flew one of our coaches out, Ariel on my staff. She filmed all of her modules because she was gonna have a baby. We're like, we gotta film these ASAP. And I started filming mine. And as we kept developing it and I started talking to other coaches and teaching people this, it evolved even more. Now we have to reshoot everything. So it's basically like bonus material we're gonna give. It's like lead magnets or something. But we realized there was such a better way to teach it. But that part we use with clients. We literally talk to clients about that. Because when we showed them, this is what we're trying to take you through, it like really clicked and they started connecting the dots between things. Like, oh, self-control, I do have that because I did this thing at work. So I guess I don't have an excuse as to why I can't do this with my diet, right? I just have to practice, right? It's like, I was super proud the other day, my daughter, I think she was playing Minecraft or something. She got like pissed. And then she was like, this is so hard. And then she looked up, she was like, but hard's not bad. And I was like, that's right, hard's not bad. And it was like, proud pop mom, I was like, yes. Like, I've said choose hard like 100 times, and then she finally got it. But like, it's true, like, there's a lot of things that carry over from children to clients, as bad as that sounds, but it's like, we're humans. It's behavior change, it's learning. You know, this is a foreign thing to a lot of our clients. All right, so step one is the basis framework. And we're going to kind of go through it. I think this is where I think you guys will have the biggest benefit is understanding this. We will talk about like briefly like macros and stuff, because a lot of times you do have to figure that out. We do set macros with 99% of our clients, right? It just works. So why not use the thing that has proven to work? But this initial foundation phase is really where a lot of clients see the most success. So our top 3 priorities right now for the B. So we're going to go through each one of these letters. I'm going to cruise through the other acronyms faster, so I want to spend more time here. So if you guys do have questions as I go, please ask. Basics of macro tracking. So first, top 3 priorities. I can't stress how important this is. Like, if you just figure this part out, clients will start losing weight without ever putting them into a deficit. You do put them into a deficit because they gain awareness of what they're actually eating, and so they actually just eat less or they eat healthier. But that's way better than having to put somebody into a deficit, right? And a lot of times you can get away with that for quite a while. The problem is that people don't do these 3 things right, okay? So these may seem obvious: food measurements, weighing food on a scale, calorie and macro tracking in some kind of app, training intensity and effort, which I'm not gonna touch on today, but I always put it there because I think when I think of tracking in general, I'm just like, let's look at the data. If somebody's diet's great, but their training sucks, that's an issue. If their training is amazing, but they eat way too much, they're not gonna lose weight, right? So we have to be able to become aware of they're doing both correctly. Studies report that participants in dieting research significantly underestimate how much they eat and can underreport their calorie intake by as much as 2,000 calories per day, which is wild. Similarly, people tend to overestimate how much they move by up to 72%. And this holds true even in cases where participants are paid to be accurate. So this is a quote from a study. There's been numerous studies on this stuff. But like, I've had a lot of advanced clients who are like, oh, I've been tracking for years. And I still, like, we have one video where it's like I basically present just on this one topic to our members, like a live call. I send it to every person that onboards, and they always find things that they're doing wrong, even when they're tracking, right? So even the people that are like, oh, I've been tracking, or I've tried tracking, it didn't work for me. It's so easy to show them that they haven't done it right, and that's why it didn't work. And I can kind of disarm their argument of macros don't work for me. So I'm like, macros work for everybody if you do it right, because it's literally just calories in versus calories out. You don't even have to track macros, just calories and protein. But the point is like, that is your literal intake. It's gravity. It's a law. It's a principle. We can't defy it. If we can get them to fall within that, within close range, it doesn't have to be perfect ever, because it never will be. Luka laughed when I said this, but I use this with clients all the time. If somebody said, like, tracks their chicken breast and it's 26 grams of protein and 2 grams of fat for 4 ounces, every chicken lived a different life. Different muscle, different fat, different hydration, different diet, different farm. So like, that's impossible for it to be the exact same, right? If me and Luka had the same exact measurement of bicep, it's still a different muscle. His arms are way longer than mine. He has different muscle fiber dominance. Like, there's going to be differences in it, right? So even being perfect isn't accurate. And that allows us to be flexible with ranges, which is way easier for people to cope with and not feel like they have to be perfect. But on top of that, it's guaranteed that you're going to find stuff between the lines they're not doing right, okay? So the first step is just that we want to identify this more than anything. I don't tend to worry about this too much. This is very true, and this is more so the case for calorie calculators. Somebody's like, I'm vigorously active, and it's like, no, you're like barely above sedentary, right? That's kind of what that's saying here. But the main point I'm getting at is they overestimate how much they're eating, or underreport how much they're eating, and it's even true when people are paid to do it, okay? And so the easiest way to go about it too is like, when I talk to people about this, and we get a lot of people, like, have you tried to do this with clients and they say, I don't want to track, or tracking didn't work for me, or anything like that before? We get it all the time. And my thing is always, if we do it for 3 weeks and you do it exactly how I'm showing you and it doesn't work at all, we'll never do it again. Can you agree to that? They always say yes. Or I'm like, hey, if I could guarantee you that this will work if you use it the way I'm going to show you versus how you've learned it in the past, would you be willing to do it? And their response is always, I'll do whatever if it actually works. Cool. And then I can show them where they're inaccurately tracking immediately, and instantly they have more trust for it. And they realize, oh shit, he's right. I didn't do it right last time. This probably will work. Okay. So, number one, tracking in grams on a food scale 99% of the time. Track everything. It all has calories. You can take pictures of the meals. So sometimes if I feel like a client's not doing it right, I'll have them take a picture of the meal, and then I can look at their MyFitnessPal or whatever they track with and see the difference. And I can say, hey, like, easy example is, 16 grams of peanut butter. And I'm like, cool, did you weigh that on a scale? Well, no, I did it in a tablespoon, like you saw in the picture, but it's 16 grams per serving. I'm like, okay, weigh it on the scale next time. And then I get a message, damn, I eat way more peanut butter than I realized. It's like, cool. Most coaches look at it and go, fuck, I don't know what's going on. They tracked it, right? It literally just takes that. And the cool thing is this is not something you're constantly doing. You do it at first. Then they realize, and then you never have to mention it again. Here and there you have to pop in and say stuff with somebody makes a crock pot recipe. Okay, now it's like, let's figure this out. But this is one of those things that is very hard for coaches to do. And it was even hard for me to ask, because I'm like, hey, I want you to track every single thing you put in your mouth. Like, that seems very, honestly, ridiculous, right? What we're trying to do here, though, is teach them and build so much awareness that they don't have to track in the future. Because if they realize how much they're overeating by doing this really, really detailed form of tracking, eventually they can stop tracking, and their habits and their eating patterns are so much better, okay? You don't look at the GPS for a second and then go, all right, I think I remember, I'm just gonna drive. You follow it the first couple times you drive there, and then you don't have to use it again, because you look at landmarks, you drive the road, you figure things out, okay? And then you use it. I've been here so many times. I used to live up the street. I used GPS to get here, just in case there was a faster route, right? That's what it is. There's certain things you do. This sounds ridiculous, but I'm going to Nashville in December, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna dial this shit in. I can't go to Nashville and not be jacked. So programs dialed in, tracking macros for the first time in years. I'm just gonna use the GPS for a little bit. Make sure I'm dialed in. I was eating more than I realized, way more fat than I realized. Just get it in line and then I'm good. But it's a tool, okay? So it's gonna be way more accurate if we do this, and it eliminates weight loss stalls due to inaccurate tracking, which is basically they're not in a deficit. So even if we put somebody at maintenance and they start tracking accurately, they're in a deficit, but mentally they don't think they are, which is helpful because they don't get as much fatigue from it and they lose weight. So we're not even in the fat loss phase and they're already losing weight. It encourages positive behavior. They have more clarity. They're in more control. The most frustrating thing is gaining weight and being like, I don't know why I'm not losing weight. I'm busting my ass in the gym. I'm trying to eat healthy. I eat pretty well. We hear that all the time. Give them the tools so they can have control. And once they have control, they feel like they're in charge because they are. It may lead to less hunger and cravings, which is more of like a placebo effect. When you teach people how much they're actually eating and then they see it, because they have these numbers associated in their head, they realize they're eating more, and then we can actually give them a decent amount of calories and lose weight, their hunger and cravings tend to go away, okay? Neurotic, tedious, unsustainable. This isn't forever, and being in full control isn't neurotic, it's disciplined and intelligent. This is how it's a big reframe. And this is what you have to do with a lot of things, right? If somebody wants to go on a vacation and they need to put together a budget and their accountant says, we're gonna do this, 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 and they're like, nah, I'm just gonna intuitively save money. Like, you're probably not gonna go on vacation. That sounds ridiculous, and it's not obsessive to save money. So why is it obsessive to do this for a short period of time? And when you remind them that, and then you show them too, hey, like when you look back, it's gonna be like a blip of time. It frames it differently, and they can see this is a small period of time. I'm gonna learn a massive amount. I think based on the average lifespan, if you track macros for a whole entire year and did this, I think it's still like not even 1% of your life, maybe 1%. Like, that's crazy. They don't think like that though. Most of us don't either. We're like, fuck yeah, that is kind of ridiculous. Don't say that. Reframe it for them. Here's some good examples to paint the picture, and I use these ones because these are just like easy to grab, but there's so many like this. Olive oil spray, 0 calories. We all have the spray, right? This is 0 calories, even though it is literally olive oil. We all know it has fat, and the serving size is 1/4 of a second. Nobody sprays like that, right? Everything but the bagel sesame seasoning, really good. The first ingredient is sesame seeds, which is a fat. It's a nut, it's a seed. 0 calories, or 5 calories, 0 grams of fat, but it's 1/4 of a teaspoon. If you're doing like cream cheese in a bagel, there's no way, like, that's so little. Same thing with Lawry's seasoning salt. The second ingredient is sugar, which is pure carb, but this says 0 carb, 0 sugar, but it's 1/4 of a teaspoon. Nobody does that. So we are all doing this, just pouring sugar and fat and stuff all over our food, and we're not trying because it's 0 calories, and then we get frustrated, we don't lose weight. We just changed that one thing, we're in a deficit. You don't have to track anything, just get them to remove that. I'll make sure you guys have these slides too, because this stuff is like helpful. But tracking raw versus cooked, eating one serving size based on package information. I mean, you can do this even like most protein powders and stuff, which is totally fine. But like, if you take a scoop and then you actually like weigh the amount, it's usually not 100% accurate, right? And it's the same thing, like you have a graham cracker and it says the serving size is blank, and then you actually weigh it, it's different, right? So just because it says something on the label, it has, legally they can be 20 to 25% off, right? And again, this is not forever, it's building awareness. And if somebody goes, I really want to lose weight, and we understand why, because we've gotten to their deep root why, this is not that big of a deal to get them to do for a short period of time. Measuring in cups or tablespoons instead of grams, finding the right entry in the app they're using. Like MyFitnessPal is like Wikipedia. People can add stuff in there. So just adding something random is not accurate. Turn off adjust my calories. So that's another thing. People will use MyFitnessPal and it's tracking their Apple Health. They exercised today. You earned 500 extra calories. And then it just bumps their caloric intake up and they follow the numbers that are in there instead of what you told them. That's an issue. So there's a lot of things. This is probably the most notorious. Like outside of like seasonings and all that, it's tracking Monday through Friday and then forgetting on Saturday, Sunday, right? My diet's not the same Saturday and Sunday. I have way more calories on the weekend. Most clients do. If you tell them like, yeah, that's how I am as well, why don't we just factor that in and have more calories on the weekend so our weekly deficit's the same? Now they have permission to do what they were already doing and felt like they were guilty for and cheating for. The next letter is awareness practices. This is, did you hear this from somebody or did you really make that up? It was so long ago, like that stuck with me for like a decade now. I say it so much. I literally say it all the time. Yeah. I've never heard anybody else say it, so it's attributed to you, but awareness precedes change. I say that so much to clients, and I have for years. Nobody can argue that. Like, you can't expect to create change if you're not building awareness. If somebody's frustrated because they're not getting results, it's like, hey, we have to become aware of what you're doing now that's not letting you get results. So this is very, very important. Awareness reduces autopilot behavior, helping clients build internal control. We don't have, this would be hilarious, but I had a wire at the edge of, we had bay doors at my last gym. So we had the laser wire so my bulldog wouldn't run out the door because it would shock him real quick. Just give him a little buzz and he'd come back in to train him, right? We don't do that with clients when they're reaching for some food, just zap them, But essentially, it wouldn't be bad if we can get them to have that autopilot, right? This is I'll use myself as an example because my wife she's naturally thin. She's not into the fitness space or anything, which I love. It's kind of like a yin and a yang. It helps me. But I'll never forget, there was a night we were drinking some wine and stuff, and somebody brought over, we hosted some friends, and we told them not to bring anything. They brought crumble cookie. And it was the end of the night, and it was sitting there. And then I think we had some chocolates from the holiday somebody sent to. And I was like, nah, I'm good. Or I looked at it. I had one bite of one of them, and then I was done. And she was like, how are you disciplined when you're drunk? And I was like, but it's autopilot. I have standards and rules that I just like to follow, and I don't, there's times where I do indulge in certain things, but I know what things matter to me to indulge in, and I know what things I don't care about, and I understand the trade-off. And so it's I would rather stay on point. I would rather not feel like shit the next day, and certain things make me feel like shit. Certain things make me feel like shit, and it's worth it. Crumble cookie wasn't one of them. But people don't have that level of discipline because they don't identify what those things are. If we can identify values, standards, and set these things in people's heads, it's automatic. I wasn't thinking to be disciplined. What's automatic is not requiring discipline. Okay, there was a good study on self-discipline. They use if-then statements. If blank, then blank. And when you teach clients if-then statements, it automates discipline. It doesn't mean they're not disciplined. It means they don't have to think about it, which makes it easier, which means they're not using a ton of willpower to do it. And so if it's Saturday, then I drink alcohol. That's my rule. Unless it's my birthday or my anniversary. I have those caveats. But there's alcoholism in my family, and I'm going to keep it out of the week. My wife can have a half a glass of wine on a Tuesday, and she's totally fine. I can't do that. So I choose not to. Some people can't avoid the temptation of cookies or chocolate or whatever. If-then statements. If blank, then I will allow this. If blank, then I will skip this. It's really, really simple. And you can do it with anything. Okay? I talked about this with the travel thing. If I'm staying in a hotel, then I'll wake up and go on a walk around the building first thing in the morning. Because I know when I travel, I never get as much steps. Because I don't have my intentional walks, right? It's just like stacking habits, but it's situationally dependent. So you put a guaranteed situation right after the if that triggers them to do the thing that we want them to do. So basically what we're trying to do here with awareness practices, awareness reduces autopilot behavior, helping clients build internal control. So we create these good positive autopilots, and we also turn off the other ones. We've all heard time flies by, next thing you know, I'm 20 pounds heavier, right? I didn't even think about it. I just was snacking while they were there. How do we remove those autopilot scenarios that are bad for us and create new ones? Okay. Coach's action checklist. So we're kind of going through these things. Assign a brief daily awareness, right? Some kind of practice. This is super easy because you can work with them. Use motivational interviewing. Would you rather this or this? Because it doesn't matter. If you're somebody who loves meditation, that's great. If you're somebody who doesn't, there's other things that work for the same purposes. 5-minute mindfulness or meditation, breath work, reflective journaling, anything that helps them become aware in the moment. Okay. This is actually why I run. I've never been a runner, but I've gotten really into running because it helps my ADD and me turn off, and I can actually listen to an audiobook and not multitask. I can just be alone with myself and think and process. I have all these ideas I can write down later. I have to force myself into the scenario of running in the morning when no one's around to do that. Okay, right? Some people, they can do something way easier, 5 minutes of mindfulness, but regardless, we got to help clients find that. Have clients complete an off-plan form anytime they do not follow through with intentions. I can get you guys this too, the kind of things we use, but it's really easy to create worksheets and prompts that get people to ask questions to themselves, right? Like, we're all into personal development, but when we talk to clients, or like, I've talked to my neighbors and stuff, outside of these kind of environments, people don't actively read a bunch. They don't actively listen to podcasts. I had this neighbor that was buying like seminars and master classes and TED Talks, and I was like, why don't you just listen to podcasts? He's like where? It's like Spotify. He's like, there's podcasts on Spotify? Like, what kind of, like, do they teach you stuff? He's thinking like all podcasts are just Joe Rogan. Like, that's all he could think of. And I was like, dude. And he owns a business. This was crazy. But so like, people don't do the same stuff we do. So we have to help them figure these things out. Okay. Off plan is the same thing. They don't sit there and go, okay, I'm traveling. I'm going to be off plan. What am I going to do? What's my itinerary? What times am I going to eat? Is there any grocery stores around my hotel? Is there a gym at the hotel? Or is there one nearby? They don't think about any of that. And it's as simple as going, hey, fill out these 5 questions. And now all of a sudden they stay way more on point and they don't fall off during their travel because they're more aware. Teach clients the 4 ways to process through an urge, have them practice and report back their experience. We have a worksheet for this too. This is really good. You can give in, you can distract yourself, you can delay it, or you can allow it, right? So you can give in to the urge, which is obviously what we don't want to do. We can distract ourselves from it. It does not take that much time to eliminate a craving or an urge by just simply doing something or moving away from it, creating space, okay? This happens to me on the weekends all the time. I'm so busy during the week that I don't snack. During the weekends and I'm just hanging out at the house, I'll just want to eat and snack and just do whatever. So I'll start doing like laundry or like trying to do yard work or something just to distract myself because I get bored. But you can distract yourself. You can delay it. So like if I still have this, I'm going to go on a walk to the mailbox. If I still have this urge, then I'll have it, right? And then allowing it it's removing the guilt or the shame of giving in. If you're going to give in, like, ask yourself if you want this, what are the trade-offs? Is it worth it? When they do that, they become more aware and they remove the guilt because they're accepting it. Structured environment. You guys have this here, which is really powerful. Ask them what their other environments are like. That's really all it is. We want to quiz clients like, where do you train? What is that place like? Where do you work? What is that place like? What are those people like? Where's your family like? We've had a lot of people that are like really trying hard to stay in shape and they've lost much weight, and every single person in their family has terrible habits and is overweight and is not helping them at all. What are we going to say? Like, get rid of your family? Like, no, we have to teach them to accept that and still manage the weight they've lost, okay? So by helping them shape their environment to support their goals, clients reinforce self-control and remove the constant demand for willpower. We just want to remove this like friction of constantly trying to grind through it. Okay, like how do we teach them to accept it and develop their environment around it? You can do this with kitchen routines and social environment audits. You'd be surprised at how many people have not just audited their surroundings and their routines in their kitchen and figuring things out. Have clients complete the planning forms. That helps a lot too, and especially to create structure during the unstructured times that arise. If they have like a few questions, like we used to do this with, Luka shared this with me years and years and years ago, positive focus. It's like, I rear end somebody, do positive focus real quick so I don't like lose my shit, right? What happened? Why is it positive? How does this benefit me? Or what did I learn from it? How do I apply it to that areas of my life? It's just a way to shift my brain and get out of the negative. Review and adjust environmental structure weekly based on challenges that arise. Talk to them about this. You'd be surprised. We saw a massive increase of results by just simply, because what we did is we basically looked at how many people are filling out their update forms. Let's set a standard for it. How many times are we touching base with them? How many times are they messaging us? The people who fill out their forms every week, even if they didn't have a good week or they gained weight or anything, they ended up getting better results long term. The people who had a touch point in the middle of the week, even if it was literally, I sent one of my clients a gif of a pit bull yesterday, which honestly, like Steve Krebs used to do that to me. He would just like send me a random pit bull and it would like pump me up. I'm like, yeah, I'm a pit bull. I'm like, fuck shit up. I sent it to him because I knew he would like that. That is all I sent. And he like laughed at it and I didn't say anything else. But like, usually there's more depth than that. But the point is that we saw an increase in results just from touching base. There's a lot of people who come here and have all the support. They walk out that door and they have zero support. I've experienced it personally. I've seen a lot of clients experience it. It kind of sucks. And if only one environment is supportive, if we can just give them a little bit of support outside of that environment, it is a game changer. And it can be so simple. Some of the softwares for coaching now, you can automate it. Like we were talking about that in a meeting this morning, automating messages for certain things that we personally write, but just to make sure that it goes out and touches base with them. Intentional restraint. Practicing restraint builds and increases confidence and self-control. So assigning specific restraints, having clients reflect on what practicing restraint taught them and reinforce the restraint as a skill. Like literally just the only way to build some kind of self-control is actually to be in the face of temptation and avoid it, right? So we can't just say like, let's eliminate everything from your diet. Let's eliminate everything from the pantry, right? Like my daughter is 7. We have Pop-Tarts at all times. I like Pop-Tarts. I use self-control to not have Pop-Tarts. I'm not gonna be like, sorry, Blakely, you're never having Pop-Tarts again. Like that's ridiculous, and clients don't wanna do that either. But asking them, do you want to be able to have Pop-Tarts in your house and not eat them? Yes, okay, let's do that. Why can't you do that? There's no reason. Like it literally just takes having that conversation, as simple as that sounds. Now, if it's a 37-year-old person who has no kids, nobody, I'm like, yeah, get rid of the fucking Pop-Tarts, dude. Eat like an adult. Totally different, okay? Different situation. But point is we do have to create restraint. Supportive reinforcement, I've been kind of alluding to this throughout the process, but acknowledging wins builds a sense of capability and increases a client internal motivation. We want to constantly applaud them. There was a good study on children that talked about this. Group A, they all got really good grades, so they took all the kids that got good grades and put them in this little experiment. The one group, they said, you worked so hard. The other group, they said, you're so smart. The group that they said, you worked so hard, kept getting good grades. The ones that they said, you're so smart, did not continue getting good grades, right? Because when we are applauding their hard work, their discipline, their control, their actions, it actually reinforces those things to continue happening, okay? And you can do this really easy by helping them identify non-food rewards, but also recognize their wins and check-ins, like the whole praise, correct, praise, or shit sandwich. You got 2 buns and the shit in the middle. Like, give them a compliment, praise, then correction, and then praise again. Use simple success visualizers like streak trackers, behavior logs, habit tracks. People like seeing check marks. They like seeing that they're doing something, that they're winning. It's like when somebody is using MyFitnessPal and says, like, you've hit 100 days in a row, like, or you keep going to Starbucks to get more stars so you can eventually get the thing. It's like they're just taking your money like crazy. Same thing. They're building on that. Then we get into step 2, which is actually getting the results. So I have some cool breakdowns of how to help with this because this is more of the action side. But I want to make sure that I ask you guys if you have questions and stuff. I think that first phase really is so unbelievably important. It can be very nuanced when you get into the actual process of it, but a lot of it is communicating, right? That's really all it is. And we tested this in a group model. We had 45 people in there, and on average, they lost 11.8 pounds. They didn't do a single, like we didn't respond to a single check-in. They didn't get any access to one-on-one messaging. We didn't even create their macros. We actually showed them how to do it themselves. We literally gave them the tools. We're experimenting with a few things. 1, we wanted to see if we could do it in a group system. 2, we gave them a reward, $1,500 for whoever lost most weight. And there was like a second and a third place prize. So there's like a carrot dangling, you know, they have a motive, right? And then we force them to do certain things to be able to win that. You have to attend at least one Zoom call a week where we get on, we answer questions, we share stuff. But we basically took this away from the coaching side and just kind of challenged them to do things throughout the process that hit on these things. And they all saw massive transformations, right? A lot of them continued with us because they're like, I don't want to stop. And some people didn't do very well because they needed more one-on-one attention. Some of those people actually signed up because they were like, groups aren't for me. But the point is 90% of it was just the first part. We showed them how to put themselves in deficit if they wanted to, but nobody really had to. Everybody felt like they weren't dieting because they were just like, oh, I really was eating kind of shitty. And I wasn't moving as much as I thought I was. Right? When they come in here, you guys are in charge of making them move. But outside of here, they might not be. Does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions on that first phase?
I do. So how do you address, I feel like half of my clients come in and are women and are like, I can't track because I've had a history of, eating disorders and things like this, and tracking just makes me way too focused and spiral and feel horrible about myself and, all of that kind of thing. So how do you deal with that?
So there's 2 ways. We've got a lot of those people too.
Yeah.
And some of them we still track macros with. It's kind of like, the hard part is their worldview is that this thing is bad. This thing caused this. Yeah. That's not true. It's not the diet, it's the dieter. I have had clients that did paleo and it caused eating disorder. I've had clients that did keto and it caused eating disorder. I've had clients that have done the like binge and restrict. I've had people that it's just cardio. They do so much cardio, that's causing the eating disorder. So it's not the thing. And there's a good study on this too that actually showed tracking macros doesn't. The problem is they have a restrictive nature. So it's, I would say, dieting as a whole. Very rarely, like, I think we've referred one person out ever for being like, you know, this is an issue. Mind you, that person did not need to lose weight either. So part of it was like, you're trying to get us to help you lose weight. You don't need to lose weight. Most people, though, it's shifting their frame. So we don't like rush to do it. But a lot of times it's asking the questions. If we were to do this in a different way, would you be open to having some form of dietary restraint in place? Because you do realize if we don't put you in deficit, you won't reach your goal. If you don't care about your goal, I still love you. I don't need you to lose weight. If this is your goal, we have to figure out a way to do it that you're comfortable with. Can you agree with that? Yes. Okay. You want to get as many yeses as you can. And it's like, okay, would you rather do this, this, or this? And a lot of times too, it's like, hey, we can do this, we can do this. They won't work as well because we can't be as accurate. So I don't know for sure. And there might not be as much flexibility, which is a big problem. People often associate tracking macros with eliminating something. Paleo, which isn't really popular anymore, but that eliminated a lot of stuff. That's dangerous because you literally are telling people it's bad if you eat this. Tracking macros technically lets you eat whatever you want. So I think a lot of times it's having a conversation with them. So we just, for us, Zoom, but maybe it's impressive, but like having a conversation and actually asking, like, what was it about this that caused that behavior? And when you get to that root cause, it's never entering food into my fitness pal. It's always, I restricted too much, or I overate and then I felt like I had to do extra work the next day. It's like, okay, well, like, let's teach you how your metabolism works. And like, it's constantly fluctuating. And whether you realize it or not, when you eat more, you actually burn more the next day. So it's this constant flux. And when you kind of disarm that thought in their head, it becomes a lot easier for them to grasp. Does that make sense? It's a dance. You don't jump right into it. But we see it all the time, you know? So you can do stuff without tracking macros for sure. Sometimes it's taking pictures of their food. Sometimes it's focusing on habits first. But what we try to avoid is never having it would be more of like an inclusive diet, not an exclusive. We don't want to remove stuff. You can't have these things. It's like, hey, we're just trying to measure. I don't even want you to be in a deficit right now. Because technically in this foundation phase, we don't put people in a deficit.
Okay, they're just learning to track. They're not.
Yes.
They don't have specific goals.
Exactly. And the cool part about that too is like a lot of times we'll put them at maintenance. So I'll calculate what their maintenance should be. And sometimes I'll even like drop it a little bit because they'll see the number and be like, that is way too much. I'm not even eating that much right now. And it's like, no, you are. And that's what we're going to show you. So we're not dieting. You actually can eat all this. I want you to eat this many calories. And then once they start tracking accurately, sometimes it is hard for them to eat enough because they're choosing better foods, high volume, low calorie foods. Other times they're like, oh shit, okay. This is a lot harder. Especially like protein's the only one that ever is like really tough for people. Usually fats are way too high. Carbs kind of float in the middle. But there's a million ways to create a deficit. We've just found that even the people that say that to us, we often talk to them about, without saying it's not the diet, it's you. Like we do get them to realize that and then show them that it's not what diet it is, it's how you diet. You know, if we can teach you how to do it better this time, would you be open to using it? 9 times out of 10, they're like, I will use any diet. I don't care. Because if you, again, ask it, like, are you married to this idea? No. I just had a bad experience. Okay. Yeah. And it's like, if you've ever been in, so like, this is, it's so funny too, because like I realized I was here for so long. Remember when I got jumped? I was so paranoid. I would be in crowds, I'd be at concerts, and I'm like constantly looking around for a while. But I never said, I'm not going outside, you know? Like, I had to get used to, like, I don't have to be paranoid all the time. Like, and for me, it took, like, literally, actually, I remember my wife grabbed my shoulder one time, and I was just eating, and I literally, like, freaked out, because I was still kind of paranoid, you know? It wasn't, like, she wasn't my wife at the time, but, and then that's a whole thing I got to explain to her, like, don't touch me, you know? Which is weird, but it's the same thing. And everybody has those things in life. You get in a really bad car accident, you're probably afraid to get in your car at first. You slowly get into it. So with a client like that, we slowly get into tracking by helping them build awareness and understand that it's not a black and white statement. It's always bad with macros. Make sense? Anything else? So this phase, goal-driven discipline. Setting many goals and forming habit-based routines forces clients to choose hard on a regular basis, helping to build discipline and form self-belief. This is how Choose Hard started, was like talking to like everyday middle-aged moms and dads and teachers and people, like trying to choose hard in the most simple ways that for us as fitness professionals doesn't seem hard, but it was our way of being like, hard is good, choose hard, like over and over again. And then it became a thing that we use as our slogan. But basically, we just want them to do that. We want them to form habit-based routines that force them to do difficult things willingly, because that allows them to be more capable. And it builds discipline. So we teach clients the worth it equation, which I'm going to show you in a sec, and add friction to misaligned habits. So give them reasons to not choose the misaligned habits. Identify one daily discipline habit, such as consistent workout timing or structured meals. The small ones really do stack up. So this is like, it could be as simple as literally just being on time. Like, it takes somebody discipline to be on time, right? Like, I remember watching, now I'm going to be very aware of this. I remember watching a podcast, because I prefer not to watch my own podcasts, but I did it because I was trying to like learn how to be better. And I said like 1,000 times within the podcast, and it really bugged me. It took discipline to not say like during a podcast. I had to slow down. I had to think about what my words were. I had to plan out podcasts better, right? Anything is that way. So we just want them to, like, you can teach them something that has nothing to do with fitness and nutrition. If you're helping them build discipline in there, you're helping them in life, and then that will translate over, like I said before. Help them create an automate, delegate, and eliminate list. This is actually from something I do in business. It's just looking at auditing everything that I'm doing and what can I automate, what can I or should I delegate, and what can or should I eliminate, right? Because there's a lot of things taking up my mental capacity that maybe somebody on my team is better than me at doing it, so I should delegate it to them. Maybe I don't need to be controlling this thing anymore. I need to eliminate it, or it's a bad habit. And maybe I can automate this so I don't have to think about it as much. Clients have the same thing. We can help them create plans that automate discipline, delegate processes. Even if it's like you go to the grocery store and you keep choosing the bad options, okay, let's delegate that to your husband or your wife. Let them do it because they don't have that problem, right? Or you automate it and you do the grocery pickup. Really simple. People, they do way better at choosing healthy options when they're doing it on the app at Fred Meyer versus going in there and walking through the aisles. Review their routines weekly to ensure they align with the client's values, pointing out what's serving them and what's not constantly. So just constantly reaffirming to them that they're making the right choices, or pointing out what they're not making the right choices with, because they need to become aware of it. So to leverage the worth it equation is basically looking at fear and perceived challenge, making that less than self-belief and fulfillment. Okay, self-belief and fulfillment equals worth it. So the way we look at this is, it is not going to be worth it for a client if they fear failure, because they're going to be embarrassed. We have to remove judgment to get rid of that. If they fear success because maybe their family's not healthy and they're going to judge them. It's like, oh, you're that person, right? Whatever that thing is. This even, I remember family stuff with my wife's family. Does this fit your macros, Cody? Like, some of their family listens to my podcast and stuff. And at first you're just like, oh, dude, I'm trying to just eat Easter dinner. I'm not tracking macros. How do I get over that? Right? I started saying jokes and then I gave that to clients. I was like, sorry, Rob, I like abs better than that cheesecake. And then everybody laughs. And I'm like, but seriously. And then I just keep eating. And it's funny, but it's true. And then I win because he's like, God damn it. But teach a client that. They love that. Teach a client how to call somebody out. If they're with friends and the person's like, oh, come on. And they look at the person and say, hey, I'm really working hard to lose weight because I'm insecure about it and I want support. So can you just let me do my thing? That's all I ask. I don't need you to. They will never say a word again to that person. And I've had clients be very fearful of doing that, but once they do it, it is very empowering. It's a hard thing to say to a friend. But the truth is that person's insecure and they're projecting their insecurities on your client. Teach them to have the confidence to do that. So that's the fear part. Perceived challenge is them getting in their head. We all know this, like, oh, this is gonna be so hard. Every time I walk up to an assault bike, I do this because I hate that thing. I rarely do it because I write my own programs, but that's the perceived challenge. Every time I'm done, I'm like, I did that. It's fine. It really wasn't that bad. But it's the same thing with clients. They think it's going to be harder than it is. Tracking macros to that client that you mentioned, same thing. Their perception of what it takes, what is required, what it looks like, how long they got to do this. A lot of times clients literally think, once I start tracking macros to lose weight, I have to do this the rest of my life. No, you don't. Most people think that because nutrition coaches don't tell them this is a temporary thing. This is to get you from point A to point B, and then you sustain without it. So telling them that up front, but remove that perceived challenge. And what this does is it instills self-belief and fulfillment, which makes it worth it, right? If they have more self-belief and they see why this is going to be a fulfilling goal for them to chase, a fulfilling process to get there, they believe in themselves because we remove the fear, it's going to be worth it to them now. It has to be worth it. Because the reality is dieting is hard. Losing weight is hard. Working out is hard. Everything is hard. Everything good is hard. So it's always in the back of our mind, is this worth it? Is it good enough to be worth what I have to do to get there? We have to change their perception to make fear go down, make the perceived challenge not seem so bad, or make the fulfillment of what they're gonna have so much better. I listened to this guy named Dr. Sean Pastuch was speaking at the same event as me, and he said one of their things for sales, because they do a lot of like rehab stuff, and he had said during sales calls, what they will often do is talk to the client about, yes, it is a big investment, but 6 months from now, you're out of pain, you're losing weight, you've done all this stuff. And at that point, I say, you can have all this money back, but you got to take your pain and problems back with it. Would you make that trade? And he said, the answer is always no. But they've never thought about it like that because it's not a reality. They don't believe in themselves that they can actually accomplish it. But if you have the confidence to say, I know you can get to this goal, would you go back to where you were, 40 pounds heavier with achy joints, and take all your money back and then some if I offered it to you at the end point? The answer is always no. So we have to create that belief, remove the fear, remove the perceived challenge or change it. It makes it a lot easier. And we also don't sit there and go, all right, we're going to teach you this equation, and we show them the weighing out. We just ask the right questions to get them to understand that, okay? So remove pass or fail thought process and work on a growth mindset. That's step number 1 with leveraging this. Reminding them to pull lessons from the situation. Constantly letting them know it's okay, sharing how you screwed up your diet this week, you messed up, anything. Like, they just want to know you're human. They're not being judged. And also, we don't expect them to do good every single week, every single time. Okay, so we have to remove this on-off, like stop or go, pass or fail mindset. Pull those lessons from the situations and the failures. Hold their hand and literally show them how the tasks required are not challenging and can actually be simple. They need proof. So when something goes well, comment on it, talk about it, point it out. They have to understand how easy it is, okay? And also how easy it can be. I actually, Ariel on my staff said something to me the other day, and this is very recent, but she called me out on this in a different lens. She was like, hey, we're going over some of the stuff in the team meetings, and sometimes you are literally so confident and talk about how so easy it is, but remember, like, it's not that easy for us, because even I was watching, I was like, I don't feel confident about doing that. And like, you need to like remind people that it wasn't easy for you. And so they actually feel like they can ask questions. And I'm like, oh shit, yeah. I just get fired up and start going. But with clients, I've done it long enough with them that I know not to do that. But the point is that reminding them and showing them proof is super helpful. Me being very transparent of getting in shape and the long journey of it, all that helps so much with clients. So like, oh shit, like you were a chubby kid growing up? I'm like, yeah. And then it humanizes me. Oh, you're not a robot, right? One of my neighbors responded to my story. He literally said, I swear you're a robot the other day, because he doesn't know me. He doesn't listen to any of my content. He just follows me because he lives by me. But he saw like my story of me running or something. But with a client, I have to remind them. We should be doing that too. Prioritize focus on them versus others. We are doing this for you, nobody else. Nobody that actually cares. Okay, so like nobody, like the people we really care if they would judge us would never actually judge us. People forget that. So we have to remind our clients. Whether you fail, gain the weight back, lose the weight, keep it off, the people who truly love you, they're not gonna care. And if they do, it's them projecting their own insecurities. You should feel bad for them, not be mad at them. Help them. Be a light. They might change if you do. Explain to them the science of choose hard. Plain and simple, challenging things that we do helps rewire our brain. We change the way our stress capacity is in our brain and allows us to do more things that are difficult, okay? And we want them to know that too. The automate, delegate, eliminate, I already kind of touched on that. The point is go over these things. There's even mental capacity. I put bills and payments or supplement subscriptions. It's like, hey, do you order fish oil every single month? Put it on a subscription. You pay your bills manually every month? Put it on a subscription. You do your groceries every week and you gotta think about it, you gotta walk there? Do pickup. Save the grocery list in the app. It's super simple, right? I do Instacart in the Uber on the way from the airport to whatever hotel I'm staying at, and my food is there to eat healthy. Clients don't realize you can do that. Automate it, right? So if we just go through stuff, even unrelated things to training and all that, what can we eliminate, automate, and delegate to help just deload their brain? The less they have to think about. In general, having too much stress or things to think about is not going to help them lose weight. Reinforce self-belief. This is really, really simple. Proof is the only way for them to gain self-belief. Until they do the thing, they're not going to know that they can do the thing. Okay? So we have to reinforce self-belief by pointing out the proof. They will continue to doubt their ability to succeed if we don't point out what they did, and actually encourage them to relate other things, like even unrelated to fitness and nutrition. The more times they can actually compliment themselves for keeping their temper during a car accident or with their kids or doing whatever, or like getting a bunch of stuff done around the house, anything, it's increasing their belief because they are capable of doing things that are hard. That's all we're trying to do. And then we just remind them that we can channel that. So set stretch goals, maintain an evidence log, and celebrate wins. So constantly celebrate wins, keep an evidence log of all the things that they're doing, whether that's measurements, progress pictures, or it's literally just hard things, and then set a stretch goal. You can do this daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. Like I have this like a yearly hard thing I do that I really like. I took it from a book. It's called Having a Misogi from the book Comfort Crisis. And it's just a really hard thing I got to do every year, right? But it keeps me moving and working hard and challenging myself. Clients can have something every week that's simple. It could be a hard conversation, you know? Talk to somebody that you haven't talked to that you know you need to talk to. But like challenge them to do things. One stretch goal. Optimize macros. This is where we actually create a deficit through literal macros or another means. But we want to put them in a deficit. We want to review their meal planning, and we want to monitor biofeedback. This is the crux of what like nutrition coaching is. And when people hire a macro coach, that's all they're doing. But no change happens unless it's like a quick 30-day fat loss period or something like that. How do we do this in a way that actually sticks long term, right? I will give you guys this. This literally breaks down the phases. Phase 1, 2 to 6 weeks. Sometimes you never take your client out of there. Phase 2, 12 to 24 weeks. Kind of depends on how much weight they had to lose. And then phase 3 is to be determined. Phase 3 sometimes just happens naturally because the conversations arise and they develop what they need to develop. Sometimes you are spending, literally your coaching is not macros and stuff. It's reminding them of habits. It's instilling the belief in them. It's continuing to reinforce that self-respect piece, their identity. This is just a reminder that maintenance is not a dead set number. So even when we move, this is very, very important when we move somebody from tracking to not tracking, because they have to realize that they don't have to eat the exact same amount every day. There's no reason to. Your maintenance is a moving target. The more they know that, the easier it is for them to flux and eat a little bit more, eat a little bit less, and actually control it based on what they feel like they need. 10% minimum, 30% maximum for deficits. This is really important. A lot of coaches make the mistake of just putting clients in a small deficit. So when we are tracking macros and it's time to transform, usually we'll go through this process. Somebody loses, let's say, 10 to 20 pounds in the foundation phase. We spend a good amount of time, but they have 60 pounds to lose. When we go into this phase, I'm dropping their calories a good amount. All the research that you can find on weight loss, they all put people in a big deficit because they have to guarantee results. And because that maintenance is a moving target, you adjust it a little bit, you move less, your sleep changes, all the cellular processes. Like, it requires calories to grow hair, to grow your nails, to heal a cut. Everything slows down. Your thyroid production, everything slows down. So we have to create a big deficit to not let that compensate and catch up. That's what metabolic adaptation is, okay? Abundance mindset. We're not done with the diet or reaching the goal yet, but we need to begin creating autonomy inside their diet while their goal is still incomplete. This is really important because if I finish a diet, I lost all my weight, and now I'm done tracking macros, what is the first thing most people do? They go back to what they were doing, they eat a bunch of calories, they celebrate, they gain the weight back. So if we know that they have discipline, they have control, they still have a goal that they haven't met yet, and we start slowly removing the tracking because that's what their long-term lifestyle goal is, they have a strong internal motivation to continue staying on point, which displays they have the ability to stay self-controlled intuitively or intentionally. So when we do get to that maintenance, we're like, we don't need to lose weight anymore, but you have all the skills you need to do this without tracking macros. You've proven that. In fact, you did better than proving maintenance. You lost more weight. That is a very, very strong piece of evidence that's going to support them for the next stage. And we can do little things Assigned 2-week gratitude practice, costless exercise. Again, these are all little things that are easy. Practicing leaving 3 to 5 bites and meals. That one's a huge one. That was a big habit of mine, especially if I'm at a restaurant. Whatever's on that plate is getting finished, right? But like if I really needed to work on self-control, I'm gonna leave a few bites because I'm not dying, I'm not starving. That's a really good reminder for clients. Oh, you're hungry? Good. You're in a deficit. Your goal is weight loss. You're not dead. You're totally fine. You're in control, not the food. They need that reminder. And it's okay to say that. Thought mastery. This is more of the mindset stuff, but teaching them to understand a few things. Flick it, flip it, or feel it is really simple way of remembering this. Flick it, like get it away. Flip the story in your head. I'll show you some examples of that next. And then feel it means like just sit with it. A lot of times people get a feeling and they start making rash decisions, reacting to it. Just sit with the emotion for a little bit. It's a very, very powerful thing to just sit with the emotion and realize that it's not the end of the world. It doesn't control you. You are okay. You can learn from this if you choose to, but you have to sit with that feeling to do so. If you just tuck it down, that's not going to help, right? If you react, it's going to make things worse. So teach them that and tell them it's okay to feel that. This one, I'll be honest, it doesn't work great with a lot of guys we work with, but there's a lot of women that like this one. And my female coaches love doing this, naming their inner critic. They actually like name it something. Do you remember what Ariel's is? Gretchen. So like Gretchen's like the devil on her shoulder, like Gretchen's like the unmotivated version of her. But like sometimes people like naming it. It actually helps because it creates a character that's not them. Yeah, you're not Gretchen, right? And it sounds very funny, but it can actually lighten it up and make it fun. Differentiate primitive brain urges. So like really just teaching them the emotional versus the logical brain in decisions. That's a really powerful one. And then teach them boundary holding in social settings if needed. So this is really, really simple, but this is something helpful even if you just like send it to clients. But don't let them identify with these statements. It's too hard. I'll probably fail. I'll never be able to blank. I just wasn't meant to be good at blank. And if you flip those, instead of it's too hard, it'll get easier with time. Instead of I'll probably fail, I'll succeed if I stick with it. All these are, nobody can prove these wrong either. This is literally like actually very true. I'll never be able to blank. I'll eventually be able to blank. I just wasn't meant to be good at blank. I can be good at blank if I work at it. Again, sounds funny, but this is stuff I teach my daughter. But we can also teach full-grown adults it. And actually part of the reason why I can teach my daughter this now is because I've been doing this with clients. And I realized, actually, this is great for a toddler. Then we get into self. So this is like the self-respect side of things. I want to break there because I could probably talk on this for another 4 hours, but I want to be respectful of time and aware of time. This is just where we really start. I think the most valuable thing is really teaching them to set values. So self stands for self-alignment with values, emotional resilience, lifelong dietary intention, and then future growth and challenges. Teaching them to set challenges for the future, because it's like my misogi thing, right? If I have something coming up that's going to kind of keep me on the edge, it keeps me on the edge. That's a good thing, especially if they have a growth mindset. So basically what I want to get at with this is really, it's about helping them to recognize the reasons why they can and should have a high level of self-respect. If you guys think right now, who is somebody you respect? Actually, I think I talked about this on the podcast. Like, I remember coming here at 18 years old and being like, I want what that dude has, and I want to work like that dude. I want to be jacked like that dude. I'm just going to hang out with that dude. And that dude was Luka. I was like, that just seems like the best thing. I'm going to bug him until he lets me stay here. But like, that's pretty logical, right? People, we will do this in check-ins every once in a while. We'll say, name somebody you respect and tell us why. And they will name things and traits and shitty situations people went through and how they overcame it. And it's always character-based. It's always value-driven. And then it's just flipping the script to them. Why don't you do this, right? How come you don't feel like that about yourself? Why didn't you answer the question with myself? Which, if you didn't want to feel conceited, that's totally fine. But also, can you answer that about yourself? And if you can't, let's work on that. Because that's ultimately what we all want, right? Like, realistically, the best way to gain respect from others is by doing the same things that you are going to gain respect from yourself. If we really think about it. That's what people want more than anything. They want to love themselves. They want to accept themselves. They want to feel good about themselves. They want to be able to say they're a good person. They have values. They live morally. That's really what it all boils down to. And if we align those values with weight loss, health, strength, they will go much further. And I think ultimately that is the biggest issue with nutrition coaching that isn't solved. One, there's a lot of coaches in the industry that don't have values themselves, so they got to start there. Two, they're not willing to have these conversations with people, and their clients don't have values that they live their life by. And if they don't start showing up or acting in alignment with those, like what does that 40-pound lighter version of you do? What are their values? How do they act? How do they train? How often do they train? How much do they move? What do they eat? Would you respect yourself more if you were aligned with those things? Yes. Okay. So let's start doing that. It sounds really simple, but it can be difficult conversations to have. But once you have those conversations, it is a game changer. Like, quick story about Kyle, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot. How long have you been a trainer altogether? Because it's been a while.
Almost 12 years.
So Kyle came to one of my seminars, and I started the seminar with saying, if you're a trainer, you should look like a trainer. And it kind of pissed him off because he didn't. But what did he do? He hired us. And when he got on the call with me, he said, I'm going to hire you guys. I'm going to look the part, and then you're going to hire me. And I laughed, but I was like, that's dope. Okay. He obviously works for me now. He did the thing. He lost 40 pounds, and he crushed it. He became a different person from it. But, like, he didn't get triggered by what I said. He looked at me and was like, he was paying to be in my facility listening to me, so obviously he respected me. He wanted to create change. He wanted to respect himself more, and then he just did the work. But he was finally motivated to do it. And the crazy part is he hired us in the past and didn't see results. And he didn't take it very seriously because this part didn't click. So if we can get clients to have I've done a couple seminars at my gym. One was just on nutrition stuff, and I literally went from 9 till 6 p.m. with an hour lunch break in the middle of the day. And the bar next door was like banging on the door because we took up all the parking spaces. So like I can go and I can answer questions. Like I love this shit. I tried so hard to take this whole thing and boil it down into a small section. So I'm sorry if I was like going off on these things, but I have plenty of time. I'm always available. I have all the resources I can share. I took out a lot that is going to go into the cert because we don't have time. But I wanted to be able to encapsulate and show you guys really like what that self-formation journey is and how important it is to talk about things outside of setting calories or macros. And actually the value in tracking macros and stuff is not macros. It's the fact that it's the only type of dieting that really, truly builds awareness. Like going back to the question you had, the other diets won't do it because they just eliminate things. You know, somebody goes from not doing anything to going keto, they're going to lose weight because they cut out a bunch of carbs. And then they learn that avocados and bacon is keto. And then they stop losing weight because they take themselves out of a deficit. People don't, like we laugh because it's obvious. It's not obvious to people, you know? Like if you talk to me about building things or cars or anything, obvious things go way over my head. It's the same exact thing. So we need those tools to create that awareness. And then the rest of it is all, it's connecting with clients, it's mindset, it's honestly deep conversations. And look, we're online. So half the time it's like lobbing a question and then just letting them sit with it. And sometimes getting on a Zoom call and like working through it with them. But a lot of times if we can just let them sit with that and think on their own, give them the tools, they come up with these things. They create the change. And this was forced because we were doing things that it wasn't sustainable or scalable. So I had to figure out how to create change with people. And like at one point we had 9 coaches on staff. We decided to kind of downsize a little bit and be smaller, especially as we build a cert and do these other things. And because of what we do and that standard we do it, there was a few people that quit because we have a high standard, honestly. But I say that to say, there was a point where I could see the difference between who was getting amazing transformations and who wasn't. And it wasn't anything but this kind of stuff. I also saw a point where I was getting amazing transformations and I didn't even know why. I was like, they're doing the same calculations, everything as I am. Like, what's going on? And Ariel actually helped me a lot because she has a minor in psychology and a master's in curriculum organization. She was like, you do this, and starts listing it out. She's like, I'm going to systemize it and use it myself. And some of it she did without me even knowing. And I was like, damn, that's what's going on in their head when I'm talking to them. And it started clicking, and then we created a system around it. None of it was how we calculate macros. None of it was mealtime, and none of it was any of that shit. It was getting people to change and want to change. Because if I tell them to change because they need to, that's not going to work. if I get them to desire the change, like truly desire it, and enough to change, this is that worth it equation, it becomes worth it to change these habits and the routines, then we win. Does that make sense?
What would you say, like for example, putting into a framework, like let's look at phase one, right? Obviously getting somebody to track and having these conversations. What would be maybe 3 or 4 things that coaches can do on a weekly basis, to help instill the framework? Does that make sense? So it's like, it's not overwhelming, but it's like, hey, if you do these 3 things on a consistent basis, you will have done a lot of the moving forward this person.
Yeah. The craziest part is the biggest things for us. I think there are some strategic things we can get into, but the most important things, tracking without any specific targets. You can set targets too, but even just getting them to track accurately, just that alone. Checking in with them more than once a week. So like literally sending them a message on a Wednesday, just like popping in, hey, how's it going? What's up? Like literally just simple. You guys might be able to just do that in a person conversation here. Like we have to message, but you guys might be able to just pull them to the side and just be like, hey, I just want to check in with everything, like privately. And then making sure that they check in weekly. So like having we saw an insane difference in churn rate and in transformations when we set a requirement of at least 80% of check-ins have to be turned in. So out of every client roster, 80% of those people have to fill out the check-in form. Because the only reason people weren't was because they were embarrassed about what happened this week, which meant that they didn't trust us. They didn't trust that we weren't going to judge them. So it's like, okay, the issue isn't the check-in form questions. The issue is not breaking down that barrier. But that happened through transparent tracking, talking to them more often, and really just telling them on the front end. Like, not enough coaches just say, I'm never going to judge you. You're going to fail and fuck up, and it's okay. I did too. Like, saying those things right away. You're not going to track macros forever, and just getting it all out on the table up front, because they have those perceived stories in their head that they're not telling you, and that's screwing us over in the long run. But after doing it so long, we know what those stories are, because they cancel, and then we get an exit survey, and they tell us everything, because they know their coach isn't going to see it. And we're like, okay. I think we did surveys like that we started doing that at the beginning of 2024. It was like after like a full year, we realized that it is so much so just about them feeling like they can trust the coach enough to say whatever. There's no judgment. But I think that comes down to literally just talking. And the fact that it's just absolutely insane how much people overeat and don't realize it. And I'm a science guy. I really wanted it to be like some groundbreaking science-based thing. Now they just suck at tracking. Over and over again. But when we look at that first phase too, like that checklist at the end, the competency. So like that's where you could take a couple of these, right? Client identifies top 3 core values and completes weekly self-alignment. I'm sorry, this is the self one right here. Like you could take a few of these. Like client demonstrates accurate and complete macro tracking. Use that one. Maybe that's not the best one for somebody. Client performs daily awareness practices. Okay, implement that. I don't, outside of those 3, that I do think the tracking, the update, and when somebody doesn't fill out their form, and you guys could set it up differently, obviously, but like there's got to be some kind of interaction every week. I think those are the 3 most important, but realistically, depending on the person, you could probably pick any of these, depending on the person, and just focus on those. I think most people lack awareness, knowledge, and support. And so if we help them gain awareness, they understand, because even like the macro person that's like, it's a terrible situation, educate them on why it's not the macros, it's how you did it. And even if you guys want to use a different diet, educate them on why it's not that diet, it's how they did it, because any diet can work. But educating them that and then giving them support.
Yeah, I mean, I ask you because I want to make sure that it's like, hey, there's these few things that actually matter a lot. And when people don't check in, like rather than why did you check in, it's always like everything okay. You know what I mean? Like, because I will say that, like, if you're not getting people to share the truth, you got to build more trust every time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then being able to sit with them for them to believe, like, man, this person really wants to help me out. Like, it's not, oh shit, look, you're drinking 3 glasses of wine tonight. See, that's why you're fucking up. Because that's what they think we'll say. Hopefully that's not what you're saying. But right? But yeah. It's like, okay, here's what's going on. What are some things you think you can do to do less of this, right? And if they don't have an answer, you're always like motivational interview. Like, are you open to some suggestions? Are you open to suggestions of what's worked for others? Yes. boom, and you give them 2-3 options, then they pick an option, right? Like, so much of this is communication, but again, this is a really good framework. And what we'll do is we'll make a form that everybody can use. That's like a Sunday check-in form. That's not like, how long is you guys' form? 4 or 5 questions?
Because we're online, and now we've been shifting our system, so it'll be maybe 3 or 4. Because like we used to have our KPIs, current weight, last week's weight, adherence, but now our system just tracks that throughout the week, so we don't need them to answer those questions. So it's really like not how did you do, how do you feel like you did? So what's their perception of their progress? Does your result match the work effort you put in? A lot of times people are like, no, but it's because I didn't put in the effort. And now it's like, okay, why aren't you putting the effort? But even the to like add to what you were saying before that, I think having a conversation with why they're doing something is really important, right? We talked about this with the cigars. My wife's like, why don't you go outside and have a cigar? I was like, no, because that's a celebration. And I'm not going to make it about a thing that helps my stress. Because then I have the story in my head that cigars help my stress. That's not true. So if they're going to the wine, sometimes the answer is, hey, would you benefit from having options? So instead of the wine, you can use this. Or would you rather figure out why you're going to the wine and eliminate the feeling of needing something to fix the problem? Because a lot of times once you get to the root cause, they're like, actually, yeah, nothing. It doesn't matter what I grab. Or you're like, hey, would you like this instead? And they say yes, but I'm like, but would you really? And they're like, no, I don't want that shit. Like, I want wine, or I want chocolate, or I want, it's something that actually feels good in the moment. It's like, okay, well, we have to remove the need that you have in your head that you feel like this is going to fix something, because it's not. That's the biggest issue. So digging deeper into that question, and sometimes it's helpful to be like, do you want to rely on wine every time you have a stressful day? No. Now they just let me in. I'm like, are you okay if I try to help you fix that? Yes. Now they're giving me permission to make suggestions. It's way easier. So I'm like, I'm just trying to guide you to what you want. I'm not telling you what to do. Right? Why is this stressing you out? Why do you put that pressure on yourself? How do we remove that pressure? That goes a really long way. So you can put some of that in. I think the best thing to do with forms is to have questions that give you insight to ask deeper questions. Because you think about a form, I got time to think about this. So I'm going to give them the answer I want to give them. So I almost have to trick clients into it. Put something that is going to give you a general understanding. Like give me an example of what didn't go well this week and why it didn't go well. I fell off my diet a little bit. I had too much wine. It was a stressful week at work though. Right? Now I can start getting to the root cause. And it's a little bit easier, but I don't directly poke at the thing. Maybe share an example of me doing that too, because that always humanizes it. Like, yeah, I struggle with that as well. Does that make sense?
What system do you guys use for like checking? Because I feel like I try to check in with my clients when I see them at their session, right? So I'm like, let me see your MyFitnessPal or whatever you're using. What do you guys use? Because sometimes it's like very like tedious. They'll be like, here's 2 weeks, and I'm like, I have 5 clients at the same time. Let me try to look through this real quick.
Yeah, to be honest, it's almost like you almost have to do the process outside of the gym. That's what I did. Because I don't know if Train Heroic has that. Do you guys use Train Heroic for your training programs in here?
Yeah, they added nutrition now.
It could literally, you guys could literally, can you do automated messages in there? You guys could just set it up to where you have a reminder, like literally just send them a message with 3 questions. Like it doesn't have to be fancy. We used Google Forms for a long time, and we would change some of the questions every single week because then they get monotonous.
Like, these are my calories for each day, or like, how do you check in with them on that?
Yeah, so we're using Trainerize, and we just customize everything. So we actually have tested a bunch, and now we're in the process right now of switching everything again, and it's getting branded. They have to, on the back end, do a bunch of stuff with Apple and everything to make it not say Trainerize, so it looks like Tailored Coaching Method app. And we like that one a lot, but that's because, honestly, I like Train Heroic and True Coach better for training, but our main thing's not training, so this is like the best thing for us. But it could be a Google form. It could be that you send via email. It could be messages in Train Heroic. I don't think it has to be overly complicated. I think it literally just has to get them to think. Sometimes it might be better, unless they're writing it and bringing it into you, I was going to say, because sometimes that gap between being right in front of you is helpful, because even like if they maybe have a little bit of an insecurity of telling you, at least they know that you're not staring at them in the face. You know, which I'll be honest, I usually, if I see something, I'll try to set up a call so that I can stare them at the face. And I just tell them like, hey, like, I understand that you don't want to tell me. I understand it's hard to tell me. I know you're not on track. Like, there's so many times where I look at people and I'm like, I know for a fact you're not telling me everything, and that's totally okay. I get it. I wouldn't want to tell me everything either, but I need you to if you want to get a result and you're paying me. And they kind of go, okay. I'm like, just talk to me. Like, this is what I do. I wouldn't be here if I judged people. I couldn't, you know. But though, I think a lot of times you can trick them into stuff at times, like telling you, but sometimes you just got to call them out and just say, like, I know something's off. I just need you to open up. And there's no judgment here. But that's really hard to do with a one-on-one person when there's other people around. Because they don't want to tell you because other people see, and then other people want your attention. So it's like, I don't know if that's feasible, you know?
Yeah, sure. It's definitely like, okay, I'm trying to watch this person on Trap Bar over here. I really want to look at your macros, but I don't want to get
One of my buddies did this with his family. He has 3 kids, and his oldest is in high school, so like, I don't think this would work with my daughter right now, but like, they have family core values. So do we, but we don't recite them because my daughter's still trying to figure things out, you know? But like, they do Sunday dinner, and how aligned were you with our core values this week on a scale of 1 to 10? And his sons will like literally admit when they were like fucking off at school and they weren't aligned with some of their values and stuff. And it's a good learning tool, but like, that is why letting clients determine their values and then just asking them that simple question, they point out the things that they're not doing right. You get them to act more aligned. It's like the answer to everybody's problem would be like, did you hit your core 4? No. Okay, do that and then talk to me. And then everything works out, because it's like, if you do your core 4, you're just doing the things you know you need to do to be a good person, to be on track, to be training, to be working on your business. Like, it works out. People don't have a barometer for that in life. And I think that is the fact that you guys are also great at training, you know, in program design, you have this community, just makes it even better. But being able to talk like that is something that nobody else does. That's truly what I think separates us. I don't calculate macros better than anybody. I'm just willing to have those hard conversations, and people need that. We were talking about this the other day. Like, the amount of times I've had a client where I've said something, I'm like, hopefully she receives that well. And her response is, I needed somebody to kick me in the ass. Thank you so much. Or like, thank you for being honest and real. I had a lady the other day, her application said that her last coach was too permissive and she still needs help lose weight. People like don't want us to be nice. They want us to be real and keep them accountable. I can't keep you accountable if I'm being super nice. I'm going to be kind because I'm going to do what you need to get the result you want, but I'm not going to be nice all the time. I'm going to, do it with love. But I think that is something that is really hard for younger or newer coaches, because we do it on our staff. I'm talking to people all the time. Like I said, we were talking about the other day, because it's easier for me to say, I own the company. But I give my coaches permission too, because I'm like, that's what they need. As long as you're not literally being a complete asshole, like extremely disrespectful, I think it's going to be okay. You got to call them out, you know? And then at least if they're like, you know what, the whole equation of being worth it, it's not worth it to me. Great. Let's not lose 20 pounds and just build strength and have fun at the gym then. But if you want this thing, you have to act in alignment with it, you know?
Because I said, for some people here, sometimes it's not the right time for them to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. But the thing is, you have to get them to acknowledge that, to then go, great, let's fucking rep the performance side of things. Ironically, sometimes that's what makes them lose weight.
Yeah. So I think that's why I said that phase 1 I think would be perfect. Just not even, because somebody like that, you go, cool, we're not going to diet or try to transform. Do you want to just gain more awareness of your diet so you're in more control? Yeah, cool. They will automatically lose weight because they're just becoming more aware. And then they perform better because they feel better, their digestion's better, they're sleeping better, and they're training harder. It's like a win-win, you know? Then they maybe get to the point where they do want to transform more, but 9 times out of 10, they don't need to. Like, I think, and I can, like I said, I can send it to you to where it's, because we have it broken up a little bit differently for the cert, but it's pretty easy to put this into like a framework where it's like a more simple, like just phase 1, do this every week until this is accomplished. Like that competency checklist. It's like, here's the competency list, here's 3 strategies for each one, and then you're just picking little things to do that build on that, if that makes sense. because it's been a mission to teach people, coach, how to do this, because it's not easy, you know. Especially we can't like see them, we can't talk to them in person. They have way too much time to respond to us unless we do Zoom. We do a lot of our check-ins now via Zoom because of that. I want to say something and you have to respond to me right now, versus there's like 3 days for them to think about what to say, which just gives them way too much time to think about how to answer, you know.
And that's, I mean, the benefit for us guys too is like, you know, gelling. First of all, this is a skill set. The more you build your skill set, the better coach and the more valuable you are. So I want to encourage everybody, you know, obviously it's your choice how great you want to get at this, but you'll get better results, you'll connect better with clients. It will just help move everything along. And it'll build deeper connection, right? Because a lot of it is conversation, communication. So that's number one. Number two is we all see people, I mean, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, sometimes in class, right? They're not in semis, they're in class. But I call this like the micro coaching. There's a book, man, I'm blanking on this right now. I think it's called The Habit of Coaching or something like that. But it's like, well, you can have a 3-minute conversation with somebody and give them an aha moment, and it matters. So now, like in a span of a month, I, you know, essentially have 15 to 20 micro coaching conversations, doing things like this. And yeah, it's not like one full-blown conversation, but it adds up. All of it adds up, right? So practicing these skills, you know, you have more opportunities here than sometimes you do online, right? Because it's like, oh, to do a longer one, I got to do a Zoom call. I'm gonna do a text, but they won't respond to me for 3 days. Here it's like, hey, what's going on? You're here a little bit early. Hey, tell me a little bit more about this. And it's like a 3-minute conversation, right? But it's a great way for you to build on these skills every day. And we have fast feedback loops, right? Feedback loops either from me or from the client. Like, oh wow, like I did that and they responded really well. Awesome, I'm gonna do more of that, right? And the more you do it, the more you build connection, the more they start thinking about what they're doing with their food. And it's like 4 or 5 months later, they're different. And I mean, significantly different. So just keep that in mind. Like, you know, to get great at this, you got to build the skills, but you can actually practice this every day here, which is cool.
I think it's called The Coaching Habit. It's a good book. I'm listening to another book I just started. It's like 9 something of TED Talks or something like that. It's about the 9, like basically the 9 main things that all the most famous TED Talk people do. And I'm still in the first principle, but it talks about inspiration. And the reason I want to bring this up is because inspiration is he talked about research showing that inspiration is contained